My name is Daniel. I am an academic, a scientist at the School of Biological Sciences at Queen's University in the United Kingdom. And my research is a bridge between evolutionary biology and global change biology. And by linking those two fields, my main interest is understanding the origins of biodiversity and the drivers that cause the declines and extinctions of biodiversity as a consequence of human impacts on the environment. Yeah, it's important that when we talk about the declines of biodiversity, we focus not just on the events of extinction, because to declare a species extinct, we need a lot of criteria. And in fact, out of the total of species that have been assessed, only 1% have been declared extinct. But the problem is a lot larger, okay? So the degradation of biodiversity, the erosion of biodiversity is happening all over the planet, across the entire tree of life. And we need to be aware that this is not just the extinction of some species, but it's the erosion of biodiversity in general. The biodiversity of the planet is declining at different rates. Some species, some regions are seeing declines faster, but they are not extinct yet. But because they are going through this process of erosion, we know that in the future they will be either extinct or in severe risk of extinction. So the erosion concept captures the idea that it's a progressive process of degradation, even if many of those species are still around. This data set is the outcome of what I could call, science on the shoulders of giants, because this is not something we collected. This is data that the International Union for the Conservation of Nature has been gathering for decades from scientists all over the world. So everybody has been contributing to it, and they produce these massive data sets that the scientific community can use to address questions about the problem. So it is a massive effort that has been guided by the IUCN for many decades. They were surprising, really. They were surprising. We knew that the numbers of species that were declining were much higher than the numbers of species that were increasing. We didn't know the exact extent of the difference between the two. So it was surprising to see that nearly half of the animal species are declining, and that only 3% are increasing, because what this shows, so you need to remember that we are experiencing the beginning of a sixth mass extinction. There have been previously 5 mass extinctions. The last one is the one that wiped out the dinosaurs and many other organisms. But in those mass extinctions, there has been a process of extinctions of a species and other species evolving to retake the niches that the species that go extinct are living available. In this case, we are seeing a very rapid decline of biodiversity and a very slow recovery of the species that are not declining. So there is an imbalance between the loss and the gains, which we haven't seen in the same scale in previous mass extinction. So that's why it's particularly worrying and surprising. It's very important. It's a very important question. The major answer to that question is that we need to think about the planet not as a collection of individual species that live their lives. We need to think about the planet and all the elements of the planet, the tropics, the high latitudes, the mountains. We need to think about the planet as a system that functions as a consequence of all those parts of the system integrated and interacting together. So all species interact with other species, and all ecosystems interact with other ecosystems. So as we see some parts of that system degrading, you know that other parts of the system will degrade as a consequence. The problem in this case is that we have simultaneous impacts on all these different parts of the system that are collapsing simultaneously and independently. So the whole system is collapsing from multiple angles. I always use the analogy of the engine of a car. The engine of a car has very big parts that are very important, but it also is made of small parts like screws. But you couldn't take randomly bits of this engine, because the engine is going to fail. What we are doing effectively is taking many parts of this engine at the same time from different parts of it, which is causing a very systematic and rapid collapse of the system as a whole. I always had an interest in biodiversity. I was always interested in understanding why the diversity of life is so rich, why organisms can be so different, why you have animals that can be this size and the size of a blue whale, why they can look so different. So I was always interested in understanding what drove this variation. So my interest in biology started with an interest in evolutionary biology. Since I was a child, I was very interested in understanding the nature of evolutionary biology